I heard the metallic clang before I even saw the barrier drop. A steel arm slammed down across the only road out, right in front of a line of SUVs trying to leave for work. Engines idled. Horns started, one by one. Nobody moved. Because nobody could. I stepped out of my truck, gravel crunching under my boots, and every head turned like I just pulled a fire alarm. That's when someone yelled, "You can't block this road." The air smelled like hot asphalt and morning coffee. And something else. Confusion. I didn't answer. I just held the remote in my hand and watched them realize it wasn't broken. It was locked. A woman in a tennis outfit stormed forward, heels clicking too fast for the situation. Perfect hair. Perfect smile. The kind that never reaches the eyes. Margaret Whitmore. HOA president. She stopped inches from the barrier and pointed straight at me. "You're causing a public obstruction," she said, voice sharp enough to cut glass. I glanced past her. Rows of identical houses stretched across the hills. Mailboxes lined up like soldiers. Cars trapped behind her like a parking lot with no exit. None of it looked familiar. It should have. Because all of it sat on land with my family's name on it. I could feel the weight of the keys in my palm. Cold. Real. Margaret took another step. "I've already called the police," she added, louder this time, making sure everyone heard. A few neighbors nodded. Some crossed their arms. Like they were waiting for me to fold. That's when the sirens came. Not loud. Just distant at first. Then closer. The kind of sound that usually ends arguments fast. I didn't move. I didn't need to. Because I already knew what they were going to say. A black and white cruiser rolled up behind the line of cars. Gravel popped under the tires. The officer stepped out slow, scanning the barrier, then the crowd, then me. His eyes lingered a second longer than normal. Like something didn't add up. Margaret rushed to him before he could speak. Words poured out fast. "He's blocking our only access road. This is illegal. He needs to remove that immediately." The officer didn't answer right away. He walked to the barrier. Ran his hand along the metal. Then he looked down at the ground. At the line where fresh gravel met older dirt. A faint boundary most people wouldn't notice. But I did. I'd spent all night staring at it. He turned to me. "Sir, do you own this road?" The question hung there. Quiet. Heavy. I nodded once. No rush. No hesitation. The officer exhaled through his nose and stepped back. Margaret's smile twitched. "Just a little." "Then this isn't a police matter," he said. The words hit the crowd like a dropped glass. Sharp. Final. Someone behind her muttered something under their breath. Another car engine shut off. Silence spread in waves. Margaret turned back to me, slower this time. Like she was seeing me for the first time. "You think this is funny?" she asked. I shook my head. Not funny. Not even close. I looked past her again. At the houses. The driveways. The fences. All sitting where open land used to breathe. That's when it clicked for them. Not all at once. But enough. The barrier wasn't the problem. It was just the beginning. And I hadn't even told them about the deed yet. I did not lower the barrier again. Not when the horn started back up. Not when a man in a business suit checked his watch for the third time. I just stood there and let the silence stretch between each frustrated breath. Margaret's eyes stayed locked on mine, but something had shifted. The certainty was gone. Just a crack. Enough to notice. I turned and walked back to my truck. The door creaked when I opened it. Old hinges. Same sound I remembered from when I was a kid riding out here with my grandfather. That detail did not belong in this neighborhood. That was the first thing that felt wrong. I reached into the passenger seat and pulled out a worn leather folder. The edges were soft. Years of handling. Years of being ignored. I could feel eyes on me as I flipped it open. Paper slid against paper. Quiet. Precise. Mini hook. Nobody asked what I was holding. Not yet. They were still trying to understand why their normal morning had stopped. I looked back at the road. At the line of cars. At the faces behind the glass. People who thought they owned this place. People who had never seen what it looked like before. The pavement. I stepped forward again, slower this time. The sun was higher now. Light bounced off windshields and made everything feel sharper. Margaret crossed her arms. Defensive. You are not going to scare anyone with paperwork, she said. Her voice sounded steady, but her fingers tightened against her sleeve. I did not answer her directly. I knelt and brushed a thin layer of dust off the ground near the barrier. Beneath it, a metal survey pin caught the light. Small. Easy to miss. But it had been there longer than any of these houses. Mini hook. The officer noticed it too. He leaned slightly, just enough to see what I was seeing. I tapped it once with my knuckle. A dull metallic click. Real. Fixed. This line, I said, keeping my voice even, runs 1,200 feet through your entire subdivision. No one spoke. Not even Margaret. I opened the folder and slid out a folded map. The paper cracked as it opened. Old ink. Faded lines. But still clear. I held it up just enough for the officer to see. His eyes tracked the boundary. Then the road. Then back to me. Something clicked for him. You could see it. Margaret took a step closer, trying to look over his shoulder. That map is outdated, she snapped. Too fast. Too sharp. Mini hook. I shook my head once. Recorded with the county. Still active. The officer straightened. He did not argue. He did not need to. The air felt heavier now. Like the ground itself had shifted under their feet. A car door slammed somewhere behind the line. Someone got out. Then another. People started gathering closer to the barrier, drawn in by something they did not fully understand yet. I folded the map slowly. Deliberate. No rush. Because this part mattered. Not the shouting. Not the horns. This. The quiet realization creeping in. Margaret's voice came again, lower this time. Even if you own the road, you cannot just shut down access. There it was. The first real crack. I met her eyes. Watch me, I said. But I had not even shown her the contract yet. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. The crowd was already leaning in, trying to catch every word. The morning sun kept climbing, and the heat started to sit on the pavement. Engines shut off one by one. Even the air felt like it was waiting. Margaret stepped closer again, slower now. Careful. Like she was walking into something she could not see yet. You are making a mistake, she said, but the edge in her voice had softened. I tilted the folder slightly so she could see inside. Not everything. Just enough. A glimpse of stamped pages. County seals. Dates that went back decades. Mini hook. Her eyes flickered. That was the first time she looked uncertain. I slid one document out halfway, then stopped. Let the moment hang. People shifted behind her. Shoes scraping pavement. Someone whispered, "What is that?" I did not answer them. Not yet. I let the paper rest between my fingers. Old ink. Clean lines. The kind of document that does not argue. It just exists. The officer cleared his throat quietly. Not a command. Just a signal. He was paying attention now. I looked at him, then back at Margaret. You said I cannot shut down access, I said. My voice stayed level. You are right. A few heads nodded behind her. Relief started to creep in. Too early. I held up the paper just enough for the officer to read the title. His eyes moved left to right. Then stopped. Mini hook. His posture changed. Slightly straighter. More alert. Margaret noticed it. Of course she did. She turned toward him. What does it say? She asked. He did not answer immediately. That silence stretched longer than anything I could have said. I folded the paper back into the folder. Slow. Deliberate. I cannot shut it down, I repeated. Then I tapped the barrier remote lightly against my palm. But I can control who uses it. The words landed heavier this time. A man near the front frowned. What does that even mean? He asked. I glanced at the line of cars again. Delivery vans. Family SUVs. A school bus farther back, yellow paint catching the sunlight. All of them stuck on a road they assumed was public. Mini hook. It means, I said, this road is not a right. I paused just long enough. It is access. Margaret shook her head quickly. Too quickly. No, that is not how this works, she said. But she did not sound sure anymore. I took a step toward the barrier. And rested my hand on the metal arm. Warm now from the sun. Solid. Real. You built everything behind this line, I said. Without ever owning the way in. A murmur moved through the crowd. Low. Uneven. Like something was breaking apart, piece by piece. The officer looked down the road again. Then back at me. He was connecting it now. All of it. Margaret's voice came out sharper, but thinner. We have easement rights, she said. There it was. The word she thought would fix everything. I nodded once. You should read the clause again, I said quietly. Mini hook. She froze. Just for a second. Long enough to feel it. Because I had read it. Every line. Every condition. And one of them changed everything. I lifted the remote slightly, letting the red light blink once in the sunlight. Then I looked straight at her. Tell me, I said, when was the last time your HOA renewed it? Margaret did not answer right away. Her lips parted, then pressed together again. The confidence she walked in with was gone. Not shattered. Just, slipping. That is not relevant, she said finally, but her voice lost its edge. I watched her eyes move, not toward me, but toward the homes behind her. Toward the people. Like she was searching for someone else to confirm what she just said. No one stepped in. Mini hook. The silence around her felt louder than the horns did earlier. I tilted my head slightly. It is the only thing that matters, I said. The officer shifted his weight. He was no longer neutral. Not fully. His eyes moved between us, but he was listening closer now. Ma'am, he said carefully, if the easement expired, he did not finish the sentence. He did not have to. Margaret cut him off. It did not expire, she snapped, too fast. Then she hesitated. Just a fraction of a second. But everyone saw it. Mini hook. I opened the folder again. This time, I pulled the document out fully. The paper caught the sunlight. Clean. Official. I held it flat so the officer could see the date stamped in bold ink. Recorded easement. 30-year term, I said. I tapped the corner with my finger. Signed in 1993. A murmur rolled through the crowd. Low. Uneasy. Someone behind her did the math out. Loud. That ended, years ago. Margaret turned sharply. That is not how extensions work, she said. But now she was explaining. Defending. That was new. I nodded once. You are right, I said again. Her shoulders relaxed just a little. Too soon. Extensions require renewal, I added. The air shifted again. You could feel it. Like a door closing somewhere they could not see. Mini hook. The officer stepped closer to the document. He leaned in just enough to read the fine print. His finger traced a line near the bottom. Then he stopped. His jaw tightened slightly. Margaret saw it. Her posture stiffened. What does it say? She asked again, but this time it sounded different. Less control. More urgency. He did not answer her. He looked at me instead. A silent confirmation. I gave a small nod. Then I spoke. No renewal on record, I said. The words dropped clean. No emphasis. No drama. Just fact. The reaction was immediate. Not loud. But sharp. People looked at each other. Phones came out. Someone stepped back like the ground had shifted under their feet. Margaret shook her head slowly. That cannot be correct, she said. But she did not sound convinced. I closed the folder halfway. Let the paper rest inside again. You built an entire community behind a road you never secured, I said. I let that sit. Let it settle. Let it spread. Mini hook. A man near the front ran a hand through his hair. So what does that mean? He asked. I looked at him. Then back at Margaret. Then at the barrier. The metal arm still locked in place. Unmoving. It means, I said, you have been using private access for years. I paused just long enough. Without permission. Margaret's breath caught. Just slightly. But enough. Because now she understood. Not everything. But enough to know this was not going away. The officer stepped back from the document. His voice came out calm. Final. Ma'am, you might want to contact your legal counsel. That was it. No threat. No escalation. Just reality. The kind you cannot argue with. Margaret turned back to me slowly. The smile was gone now. Completely. What do you want? She asked. There it was. The first real question. I looked at the barrier. Then. At the line of cars. Then back at her. And I almost told her. But not yet. Because she still did not know about the transfer. What do you want? Margaret asked again, slower this time, like the words tasted different now. I did not answer right away. I let the question sit between us. Let everyone hear it. The horns were gone. The engines were quiet. Even the birds seemed to stay back from the road. I glanced down at the barrier, then back at her. Right now? I said. Nothing. A few people shifted behind her. That answer did not help them. It made it worse. Mini hook. Because if I did not want anything, then this was not about negotiation yet. Margaret frowned. You are holding an entire neighborhood hostage, she said, but the word hostage sounded forced. Like she was reaching for something that still made sense. I shook my head once. No, I said. I am controlling access to my property. The officer nodded slightly. Not approval. Just acknowledgement. That detail did not go unnoticed. Mini hook. Margaret saw it. Her shoulders tightened again. People have jobs. Kids. Schedules, she said, gesturing behind her. I followed her hand. A school bus sat halfway down the line. Yellow paint bright under the sun. The driver leaned out the window, watching everything without saying a word. Parents stood near their cars now. Phones in hand. Voices low. Controlled. Waiting. I looked back at Margaret. Then you should have secured the road, I said. Her jaw set. We had legal access, she pushed back. I tilted the folder slightly. You had temporary access, I corrected. Mini hook. The difference landed harder than anything else so far. A man near the front stepped closer. So what happens now? He asked. His voice was not angry. Just uncertain. That was new. I met his eyes for a second. Then I looked back at Margaret. Because this part was for her. Now, I said, we figure out who gets to use it. The words were simple. But they shifted everything. Margaret blinked. Who gets to? She stopped mid-sentence. Her expression changed again. Not confusion this time. Calculation. She was starting to see it. The angle. The leverage. Mini hook. You cannot pick and choose. She said, but it sounded weaker now. I shrugged slightly. It is a private road, I said. I can set terms. The officer did not interrupt. He did not need to. His silence was louder than anything he could have said. Margaret turned slightly, looking back at the homes again. At the people watching her. Waiting for her to fix it. That pressure was new for her. You could see it in the way she stood. Less certain. Less in control. Then she turned back to me. Fine, she said. Name your terms. There it was. The shift from authority to negotiation. Clean. Clear. I looked at her for a long second. Then I glanced down at the folder again. My thumb rested on a second document inside. One she had not seen yet. One that changed the entire conversation. Mini hook. I closed the folder slowly. Not yet. You are not ready for that, I said. Her eyes narrowed. Try me, she replied. The crowd leaned in again. Even the officer stayed still. Waiting. I exhaled once and looked past her, down the road, toward the entrance sign they had built at the edge of my land. Polished stone. Clean lettering. A name that did not belong there. You built everything assuming the road was yours, I said quietly. I paused. Just long enough. What happens when it is not mine anymore either? Margaret did not react right away. That question hung in the air longer than anything else I had said. You could see it move through her expression, piece by piece, like she was trying to catch up to something already in motion. What do you mean? She asked, but this time there was no authority behind it. Just uncertainty. I did not answer immediately. I let my hand rest on the folder, thumb still pressed against that second document. The one she had not seen. The one that changed the rules entirely. Mini hook. The officer shifted again, glancing between us. He knew something else was coming. He could feel it. So could everyone else. The stillness had a weight to it now. Heavy. Expectant. I finally opened the folder again. Slow. Controlled. The paper inside did not look old like the others. Clean edges. Fresh ink. Recently filed. That alone caught Margaret's attention. Her eyes narrowed. What is that? She asked. I slid the document out halfway, then paused. Just enough to let her see the header. A company name. Not mine. Mini hook. Her brow furrowed. "That is not you," she said quickly. I nodded once. "No," I said. "It is not." A man behind her leaned in, trying to read it from where he stood. The officer stepped closer again, careful not to cross the line near the barrier. He waited. He did not interrupt. He just watched. I pulled the document out fully this time and held it where the light could hit it. Clear. Official. Filed with the county less than 48 hours ago. This road, I said, tapping the paper lightly, is no longer under my name. The reaction was immediate. Not loud. But sharp. Like something snapped quietly inside the group. Minnie Hook. Margaret blinked. Once. Twice. Then she shook her head. "That is not possible," she said. But her voice did not carry the same force anymore. I tilted the document slightly toward the officer. He scanned it quickly. His eyes moved faster this time. He understood what he was looking at. When he finished, he did not question it. He just stepped back again. That silence said everything. Margaret saw it. Her posture changed again. Not defensive this time. Something else. Something closer to concern. "Who owns it?" she asked. That question came out lower. Careful. Because now she knew it mattered. I closed the folder halfway again. Not hiding it. Just controlling how much they saw. "A private entity," I said. "Fully registered. Fully compliant. Minnie Hook." A few people in the crowd exchanged looks. Confused. Uneasy. Because now this was bigger than a neighbor dispute. Bigger than HOA rules. This was something else. Something they did not have control over. Margaret took a step closer, lowering her voice. "You sold the only access road?" she asked. I met her eyes. "I transferred it," I said. "Strategically." The word hung there. Strategic. Deliberate. Planned. Her lips pressed together again. Thinking faster now. Trying to find the angle. "Then we will deal with them," she said. "We will negotiate with the new owner." I almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was expected. Minnie Hook. I shook my head. Slowly. "You already are," I said. That stopped her. Completely. The air shifted again. Subtle. But real. She looked at me harder now. Studying. Measuring. Trying to connect something she had not seen before. The officer glanced at me, then back at her. He was waiting too. Because this part mattered. More than anything so far. I adjusted my grip on the folder. Then I let the words come out clean. Simple. Final. They answer to me. The words landed and everything stopped. Not just the crowd. Not just Margaret. Even the air felt like it paused for a second. They answer to me. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. The meaning carried on its own. Margaret stared at me like she was trying to find a version of this that made sense. One that fit her rules. One that she could control. She did not find it. "You are saying you still control the road," she said slowly. I shook my head once. "No," I replied. "I control the terms." That difference hit harder. Minnie Hook. Because control of the road was simple. Control of the terms meant something else entirely. Something bigger. The officer exhaled quietly. He understood it now. Fully. His eyes moved toward the barrier again, then down the road, then back to me. No confusion left. Just clarity. Margaret's posture shifted again. Less rigid. More calculated. She was adapting. Then set your terms, she said. Direct now. Focused. Trying to take back ground. I looked at the crowd behind her. People who had never thought about where their road came from. People who assumed access was permanent. Guaranteed. I could see it in their faces now. That assumption breaking apart. Mini hook. I stepped closer to the barrier and ran my hand along the metal again. Warm. Solid. Real. Access requires agreement, I said. Written. Enforced. A man near the front frowned. Agreement with who? He asked. I turned slightly and tapped the folder once. With the owner, I said. Then I looked back at Margaret. And the owner does not operate under HOA rules. That shifted it again. A few people exchanged looks. Someone shook their head slowly. Because now the structure they relied on meant nothing out here. Margaret caught that too. We have contracts, she said quickly. Homeowners' agreements. Community bylaws. I nodded. Inside your neighborhood, I said. Then I tapped the ground lightly with my boot. Not on this road. Mini hook. The distinction cut clean. The officer did not interrupt. He just stood there, letting it unfold. Margaret took a breath, slower this time. So what are you proposing? She asked. That word mattered. Proposing. Not demanding. Not ordering. That shift was complete now. I opened the folder again. This time I did not hide the document. I pulled out a single page. Clean. Typed. Structured. Not old. Not inherited. Created. Deliberate. I held it up just enough for her to see the header. Access Use Agreement, it read. Her eyes locked onto it. She did not blink. Mini hook. The crowd leaned in again. Closer now. Quiet. Listening. I lowered the paper slightly. This defines who can use the road, I said. When? And under what conditions? Margaret's jaw tightened. You expect an entire community to sign your terms? She asked. I met her gaze. Steady. I expect anyone who wants to leave to understand them, I said. The weight of that settled immediately. A few people turned back toward their cars. Not to leave. Just to look at them. Like they were seeing them differently now. Trapped. Dependent. The officer glanced at the school bus again. Then back at me. He was thinking ahead now. So was Margaret. And if we refuse? She asked. There it was. The last angle. I did not answer right away. I looked down the road. Long quiet. Empty beyond the barrier. Then I looked back at her. Then the barrier stays, I said calmly. I paused just enough. And the terms change tomorrow. The word tomorrow settled deeper than anything else I had said. Not louder. Just heavier. You could feel it move through the crowd like a slow wave. People started looking at each other now. Not at Margaret. Not at me. At each other. That was new. Mini hook. Because for the first time, they were not waiting for her to fix it. They were realizing she could not. Margaret stood still for a moment. Then she turned, just slightly, scanning the faces behind her. Expecting support. Expecting agreement. She did not get it. A man near the front stepped forward. Mid-40s. Work badge still clipped to his belt. What kind of terms? He asked. Direct. Practical. I nodded once. That was the right question. I lifted the paper again, just enough for him to see the structure. Access hours, I said. Usage limits. Maintenance fees. A few people reacted to that last part. Quiet murmurs. Subtle. But sharp. Mini hook. Because now it sounded real. Not theoretical. Not distant. Immediate. Margaret turned back quickly. Fees, she repeated. The word came out tight. Controlled. I held her gaze. Private infrastructure requires maintenance, I said. And liability coverage. The officer shifted slightly at that. Not disagreement. Just recognition. He had seen this before. Roads like this. Contracts like this. Systems that did not bend just because people expected them to. Mini hook. Margaret shook her head. You are trying to profit from this, she said. I did not react to the accusation. I just tapped the paper lightly. I am formalizing what was never secured, I replied. That distinction landed differently. Less emotional. More final. The man near the front stepped closer again. So if we sign, we can leave, he asked. I looked at him. Then at the barrier. Then back at him. Access is granted upon agreement, I said. His shoulders dropped slightly. Not relief. Just clarity. Behind him, someone else spoke up. And if we do not? I glanced toward the barrier again. The metal arm had not moved. Not once. Then access remains restricted, I said. No emphasis. No threat. Just fact. Mini hook. A few more people stepped out of their cars now. The line was breaking apart. Not physically. Mentally. Groups formed. Quiet conversations started. Phones came out. People were calculating. Fast. Margaret watched it happen. You could see the shift hit her in real time. Control was slipping. Not because of me. Because of them. She stepped closer again, lowering her voice. You cannot restructure an entire community overnight, she said. I met her eyes. You already did, I replied. That stopped her again. Clean. Immediate. Mini hook. Because she knew it was true. They had built everything here. Without securing the one thing that mattered. The road. The officer looked down the line again. Then back at me. If agreements are voluntary, he said carefully, then individuals can decide. I nodded once. Exactly. That was the point. Margaret exhaled slowly. Her shoulders dropped just a fraction. Not surrender. Adjustment. You are dividing the neighborhood, she said. I shook my head. No, I said. I am giving them a choice. That word carried further than anything else. Choice. It moved through the crowd fast. Faster than doubt. Faster than fear. Mini hook. Because choice meant responsibility. And not everyone wanted that. A woman near the school bus stepped forward, glancing between me and Margaret. Where do we sign? She asked quietly. The question cut through everything. Clean. Simple. Final. Margaret turned sharply toward her, but the moment had already shifted. I lowered the paper slightly and looked at the barrier one more time. Then back at them. Not here, I said. I paused just long enough. The office opens in 10 minutes. 10 minutes felt longer than the entire morning. Nobody left. Nobody could. The line of cars stayed frozen behind the barrier, but the people were moving now. Small groups formed. Voices stayed low, but sharper. Focused. I stood by my truck, watching it shift in real time. This was not about me anymore. It was about them deciding what mattered. Mini hook. The officer remained near the cruiser, arms relaxed but eyes alert. He was not intervening. He was observing. That mattered more than anything he could have said. Margaret paced once near the barrier, then stopped. She looked back at the neighborhood sign, then at the road, then at me. Calculating. Adjusting. Losing ground she did not know how to recover. The school bus door opened with a soft hiss. Kids stepped down one by one, backpacks bouncing lightly. Parents moved to meet them. Quick hugs. Quiet reassurances. But their eyes kept drifting back to the barrier. To the road. To me. Minnie Hook. Because now they understood what connected all of it. The ground beneath them. The access they never questioned. A man broke away from the group and walked toward me. Same one from earlier. Calm. Direct. "Where is the office?" he asked. I pointed down the road, past the entrance sign, toward a small building set back from the main line. Plain. Functional. New signage on the door. He nodded once and turned without another word. That was the first decision. Clean. Individual. Final. Others noticed. A woman followed. Then another. Not a crowd. Not yet. Just enough to shift the balance. Minnie Hook. Margaret stepped forward quickly. "Do not do anything until we review this," she called out. Her voice tried to carry authority again. It did not travel as far this time. The people kept moving. Not rushing. Just choosing. One by one. The officer glanced at me briefly, then back at them. He was seeing the same thing I was. This was no longer a dispute. It was a transition. Margaret turned back to me, frustration breaking through now. "You planned this," she said. I met her eyes. "I prepared," I replied. The difference mattered. She knew it. I opened the folder one last time and checked the document again. Everything in place. Every clause aligned. Every condition enforceable. No gaps. No assumptions. Minnie Hook. Because that was the part they missed. They assumed permanence. I built structure. Margaret took a slow breath. "This is not over," she said quietly. I nodded once. "No," I said. "It just started." She held my gaze for a second longer, then looked away. Not defeated. Just displaced. The power she thought she had did not apply here. Not on this road. Not under these terms. The barrier stayed down. The road stayed quiet. But the system had already changed. Not with force. Not with noise. With paper. With timing. With control. I watched as another resident walked toward the office, then another. The line was forming somewhere else now. Not behind the barrier. In front of a door they had never needed before. And Margaret was still standing here when the first agreement got signed.